Editing Joe before we begin. This video is a beast. It is the first time I've ever done something like this, and it's long. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to break this out into little sections. I think this is one of the most interesting and insightful conversations I've ever had in this space, and I am so thankful to Assad and Josh for joining me on the journey. I hope you get through the whole thing, but I'm asking a lot of you. So please feel free to do this in pieces and chapters, however you need to. The timeline is in the description, and I would love to hear your comments. This is a very tricky conversation in a very tricky space at a very complicated time. So I hope you enjoy, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. Cheers, everybody. 2021 was a wild year for card games. Popularity and pricing went through the roof, and a surge of new game creators found themselves a much bigger seat at a table previously crowded with Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! In Kickstarter, players, investors, and collectors alike have found new ways to scratch their card game hobby itch, and the buzz around these games has been promoted from small, humble subgenre to potential mainstream game changer. Kickstarter success stories suddenly turned into Kickstarter phenomenon, and as we close out this incredible year, the conversation has become whether or not that was a good thing. Regardless of how you feel on this issue, crowd-funded games aren't really going anywhere. As a marketing nerd myself, I wanted to get some insight into the thought process of using Kickstarter to fund a project. How do you break past the current stigma? How do you demonstrate legitimacy in your brand? And of course, how do you set yourself apart from yet another crowded table? I'm hoping that be you backer or creator, you'll come away from this video with a better understanding of how to feel confident in a project you're a part of, or at least an idea of what to look into further. Joining me today are two Kickstarter creators with a bit of a unique history. Assad, creator of the wildly Kickstarter-successful Genesis Battle of Champions, and Josh, creator of Zoo Tiles, which will be launching on Kickstarter sometime this spring, hopefully. The unique history I mentioned is that both Josh and Assad have spent years refining their product. Their campaigns aren't new ideas looking to have life breathed into them, but one seeking to expand their reach now that their games are truly ready for the masses. I'm Joey Dexendras, for those of you who don't know me. I have a habit of starting out my day with libations. I'm going to kick it off with Avery's Old Jubilation. I have another one on standby, because that's just how I roll. So Avery Old Jubilation, English style old ale. I know you both have drinks with you, but they're not as cool as mine. That's how I'm going to start. Because you guys are much cooler at me in everything else, so this is my moment. But Josh, how about you kick it off?
Oh, you want me to kick it off? Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm making you kick it off.
Not a libation, but this is a cherry blackberry drink. Bing. I don't know if it's only a California thing, but these are pretty good. So this is what I brought to the table.
We got those.
As far as my background and why Joey's even talking to me, let's see. So yeah, I mean, it's probably a typical story for a lot of like old school Magic folks, you know, old school Magic player, you know, 93, 94 for people who remember what the DCI was. I was 1269. That was my DCI number, 4 digits. So that used to be something back in the day, but it doesn't anymore. But yeah, kind of an old school Magic player. And if you've been, let's see, I guess if you were back around that time, you saw some really interesting stuff in terms of the growth of TCGs and the changing of markets for TCGs over the years. So like 95, 96 era was a really crazy time with a lot of other people trying to jump in and kind of ride the coattails a little bit and get some, you know, scratch away a little bit of market share from Magic. So that was really interesting to kind of live through and to kind of see that firsthand. And then I started dabbling around with designing games, and I told myself that I didn't want to do a card game if I ever did a game. And so just through a bunch of different coincidences I'm not really going to jump and do a deep dive into right now, I decided I was talking to someone about the Chinese Zodiac, and we were talking a little bit about it, and that kind of spurred the idea of doing a game loosely based on it. And then I kind of put the card thing out, like, no, you can't touch cards. Too many people have done cards. You can't touch those. So then I kind of put myself into like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. So what else can I do? And then I kind of stumbled into these tiles. And honestly, it just worked. And so that's kind of where I've been. I started designing zoo tiles around 2003, believe it or not. And
oh wow,
like crazy talk, but yeah, I started in late 2003. I probably got a good chunk of it and pretty much polished for back then about late 2004, and then I put it on the shelf for many years, obviously. And then around 2018, I kind of blew the dust off it and said, you know what, I want to revisit this again and kind of give it a go, tweak on the mechanics a little bit, take it to some more conventions and see if it held up, as it did previously. And then slowly but surely kind of, going through the motions, polishing it up. And then we launched this in 2020, November 2020, and it got some great reviews. So we're kind of just moving on from there. And then we're going to be doing a starter set 2 Kickstarter in a little bit. So
for sure.
Sorry if that was a ramble and that was long.
No.
But that's kind of what
that'll provide context for things further on down the road. So awesome. First things first, just since, as you mentioned before this, 90% of the people don't get the pronunciation of your name right. So we might as well educate, shall we?
Shall we educate? I mean, most people, even my parents, are like, you don't even know how to pronounce your name properly. So I don't know how great I am at educating, but it's Assad. But I went as Sid for a nickname for a very long time until this year's championship winner for Genesis was Sydney Williams, known as Sid in his community. And I actually had people messaging me saying, oh, so you won your own championship? And I was like,
oh, no,
I didn't. So I have to now course correct things. Sydney Williams, he can own that nickname now. I'm going to go back to Assad. But yeah, so I know I did a bit of a history with you before, Joey. We've done a video together. But it's actually really interesting how much of my background aligns timeline-wise with yours, Josh, because I started playing Magic. I didn't start right at the beginning, but I was, I think, 94, 95. Started playing a bunch of other collectible card games. It was around 2002, 2003 when I started designing Genesis, or started designing my own card game. I kept on designing it on and off from there until about 2015, where I decided to sit down and actually try to bring it to market. And then 2017 is when we launched. So we've had quite a few sets along the way.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
I like that you're both properly repping your respective. I appreciate that. That's pretty awesome. So. Yeah, I mean, I have a similar background where I started 93, 94 with Magic. I grew up on the Bible Belt, so I had to throw all of that away as soon as my parents saw Unholy Strength.
Yeah.
Traumatic experience, so I switched over to Star Wars CCG, and that's where most of my background is the old Decipher games. And then I moved in. I'm a big Flesh and Blood guy, as most of you guys know. But a quick, first off, cheers to both of you for what you guys have accomplished so far. And I'm excited to see where this is going. I'm gonna sip first, or else people are gonna think that I don't actually do this. But one of the things I want to disclose before we actually kind of get into the meat of this, and talking specifically about Kickstarter, is that these are not, Assad and Josh are not just two people who happen to be okay joining this. These are actually two games that I very much believe in. I've gotten a chance to play them both. I've made it very public that Zoo Tiles frustrates me and how fun the game is. Sid also knows very publicly I was frustrated for a different reason regarding the starter set that was sent to me. However, I did say that the core mechanics were absolutely phenomenal, something very, very unique in the industry. It sounds like Jalara 2nd Edition, and it's, as you put in your Kickstarter, battle tested, which I love that line. Love that line in the Kickstarter videos. These are both games that have very much been battle tested. I'm very excited for people to give them a shot. They are, in fact, products that I do believe in. So we are also, just so everybody understands the tone, if you are looking for an opportunity to bash other games and other Kickstarters, this is not the interview for you. We are not going to be doing that. This is purely educational. I know in the back of your mind, we're going to want to say XYZ names. I'm not going to do that one here. But feel free to share in the comments if you have concerns, thoughts, flags. This whole thing is designed to bring in conversation. Just try to keep it civil, as we will do here. So, With that being said, time to run the gauntlets. I've got a couple different questions that I have. I'm going to tackle this in different areas. The first one I think is one that I have the most interest in of everything that I wrote down. You both are battle tested. You both have been doing these games for a couple of years. Why in the world are you doing a Kickstarter now? Why is now the right time? Why was Kickstarter the right platform? Assad, I'll start with you on that one.
Wow. So walking in, like starting the company back in 2017, early 2018, I remember sitting with a lot of people who just experienced the game were like, you got to take this to Kickstarter. And that was the plan way back in those days until I started watching a bunch of videos that said Kickstarter and TCGs don't have a good relationship. They're like, if you're a TCG, do not go onto Kickstarter. So we avoided it. It was part of our mantra. We are not going to Kickstarter. We are not going to Kickstarter.
Oops.
However, it's the environment changed. The relationship between TCGs and Kickstarters changed a lot. And then on top of it, it's also now we're getting to a point where kind of like what you mentioned, the landscape of TCGs has changed. The door is now open for a lot of new games to have a foothold in this industry. Flesh and Blood changed the world of TCGs in a lot of ways. They proved to people that people can, other companies can start fighting against those top three. So a lot of companies are now coming into that space. And if you don't adapt to that environment, if you're not willing to grow and accelerate, then your competitors are going to just outclass you. So that was part of the deciding factor here is we need an opportunity to accelerate, to have a seat at the table. And then the other part to it is we have been, earlier this year, we got distribution and we started expanding into the US and into Europe. And though we were doing really well, we just didn't have the capital required to keep up with the demand. We weren't able to grow as fast as the players wanted us to. And that changed our mindset of we need to find investment one way or another. And traditional investors don't exist in this space. You're not going to be able to find an angel investor, a capital investor who's going to be like, yes, TCGs, that's the future. So if that doesn't exist, you have to find other avenues. And Kickstarter and Patreon, if you treat those people like investors, then it's a great platform for you to take that next step in your company's growth. So that was the philosophy that went into it. It was a struggle. I did not make the decision in a lighthearted way in any way whatsoever, but I do think it was at the end of the day, I think it was the correct call. There's going to be some downstream impacts that we haven't predicted yet or haven't planned for, but we'll deal with them as they come.
Yeah, I have a couple things I'm going to follow up on in a little bit, but Josh, I want to give you an opportunity to go.
Yeah, sure. So for me, our Kickstarter story is a little bit different in that I was not going to do Kickstarter, period. I mean, I know that's what I said as well, but the reasons I think were a little different. For me, when I was looking at Kickstarter, it felt like there was a system kind of in place where this is how you do a successful Kickstarter. You get your product and you get it out to a bunch of influencers. You pay influencers X, Y, and Z, or X amount of dollars, and then they show up and then they go out and talk to all of their fans with this big fake smile on their face, and they say, "This is so great. This is so wonderful. Go, Kickstarter coming in 2 months. Go fund this thing." And it just felt very artificial. It felt like success through Kickstarter felt like you had to be a little shady to me. That's just my personal take on it, You
and I have talked a lot about astroturfing in the industry, which for those of you who don't know what the term astroturfing is, broken down very simply, it is an advertisement, or I should say it is an endorsement that is paid for and also paid to look as genuine as humanly possible. So the difference between, if I were to say I very much believe in these games, but I pushed it in such a way that looked a little bit more advertisement, but you couldn't tell because it was very genuinely me. That's called astroturfing. So Josh, I know you and I have talked a lot about that. So shady things to get it going.
So anyway, yeah, not even necessarily in TCG space, but because exactly what it said, there wasn't really, you should not do it. Up until recently, you should not have done a TCG through Kickstarter. That was not like the way you were going to go. So if you were going to go Kickstarter, you were going to have to cozy up to the board game community, basically. And in order to do that, it's basically, like I said, you have to get, people, get within these groups, these very small groups and get to kind of know the influencers who are kind of, the market movers in the space, send them your product and then kind of, pay them X amount and then get them to say nice things. And then you do the Kickstarter. And I just didn't like that. So what I felt was really important because the thing about Zoo Tiles for me is that, I designed it, yes, but a lot of the cheerleading that's been going on for the game hasn't been like this ego-driven thing for me. I would take it to small cons and people would play it and they go, wow, this is really great. Like, where can I get it? How can I engage with it? And so it wasn't like, I feel like I've made this thing and I want to put it out to the world. I mean, I feel I made this thing and I'm showing it to people like, oh yeah, that's a good thing. You should, go a little bit further with it. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do. And also, Zoo Tiles wasn't a proven thing. So for me to go out and ask people for money for something that hasn't been proven, that felt a little weird too. So I'd have to do a little extra hype, and get people a little extra excited. So what felt right for me was getting a game out there, was biting the bullet, finding the fun, create it, do all that, and then get it out there. And then once we got Starter Set 1, I sent it out to people who I trusted would give a genuine reaction to it, and none of the reviews that I've gotten so far have been paid. And so the reviews have been coming back pretty good. So in 2020, we were actually, the game came out in November 2020, and in January 2021, I was notified that Zoo Tiles was named one of the top games of 2020 by this group called the Board Game Spotlight, who I never even heard of, right? I didn't pay for that endorsement. I don't even know these people exist. They were just like, oh, by the way, we think your game's one of the top games of 2020. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's like crazy talk. So that's the thing that I wanted to, that's what I'm more interested in, right? Is finding that genuine appreciation for it and then slowly with baby steps kind of moving forward, as opposed to, having to do all this front load hype stuff just to kind of get people's attention. So I hope there's a distinguishment there, but that people can kind of understand.
You surely answered why not to do Kickstarter. What?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So what got you to make, what flipped the switch for you outside of the landscape?
Right. So what flipped the switch for me actually was a catastrophe of epic proportions for Zoo Tiles. So we have Starter Set 1 that came out in November 2020, and then it got good reviews, all this. So it's like, of course we're going to do Starter Set 2. So I working hard, get Starter Set 2 out, sent it to a printer. Used one of the, I'm not going to name the printer's name, but it was, Starter Set 1 was printed in China, and I was going to move production to the US. So I got one of the best board game manufacturers in the world that has a satellite office and a satellite manufacturing in the United States. And so I went with them, and man, they completely botched the job. So at Origins, they sent me 6 cases of completed games. And so here's one of the remaining ones. There was only 72 that actually that survived of the 5,000 print run. All the others were destroyed because of how bad they botched the job. So I was at Origins and I was opening up the cases and I was looking at, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is horrible. And I, talked to the factory and I'm like, guys, what's going on? So they refunded me my deposit, obviously, and they destroyed, 4,928 copies. And so then what do I do? So this is October, right? And I'm like, yikes, that's really sucks. So then I call up the factory that did Starter Set 1 and I'm thinking, okay, let's just go into it. Let's just get Starter Set 2.
Got the money back.
Going. And then, just run it back. But then what happened was some TCGs just launched on Kickstarter, 2 in particular, Nostalgics and Grand Archive launched, and they just launched out of the gate, just like just like monsters. And so I was just like looking at that and I was like, wow, so what's going on here? Like, what is driving this? And Assad is absolutely right. If you don't, like, if you're not paying attention to the market and you're not making adjustments when the market tells you, you know, to make adjustments, then you're really setting yourself up as, you know, you're giving your product some disadvantages. So when I looked at that, what I saw was that the market was telling me that the market liked bling and a little bit more collectability. And so it wasn't that Zoo Tiles wasn't collectible. The starter set one, there was 5,000 units printed. And so, I mean, if you get one of the 5,000, you get one of the 5,000. And then, you know, it's kind of one of those alpha, beta, unlimited kind of things, right? Sure. And so, so I thought, well, gosh, everybody really seems to be going, like, falling all over themselves in terms of, like, getting foils and getting, you know, Wizards is starting to talk about serialized individual tiles, right? So, like, yeah. You know, and the artist signatures and all that good stuff. So anyway, so I looked at that and I thought, well, you know, if I wanted to go down that route and if I wanted to meet those expectations, that's a lot more expensive than just printing another copy of Zoo Tiles, right?
So you saw an opportunity in how the market was shifting and said, I could do what I was planning on doing with the money that I have, but Destiny seems to be getting in the way here. There is a sign.
Yeah, I mean, something was telling me, like, Josh, if you go, like, sorry, hold on. Sorry. Something was telling me, Josh, if you just go with the Zoo Tile Starter Set 2 and it doesn't have shiny bling and it doesn't, like, do all this great stuff, it might not, you know, catch on into the market the way it could. And so that's the reason why I thought, you know what, let me go to Kickstarter. And but before I do Kickstarter, like, you know, October to now, it's been a couple months. Why didn't I just jump into it? Well, the reason why is because just the type of person I am, I want to make those things and make sure that I can deliver on, you know, the promises that I might be making on a Kickstarter, because tiles are a lot different than cards, right? Cards are a lot, you know, there's a lot more support for making collectible cards than there is, you know, tiles. And so the factory has to check on, can we do foils? Can we do, you know, all this other card type stuff, the tiles. So that's kind of what I'm in the process of doing right now, is getting some samples made and doing proof of concept that, yeah, tiles can play in the same realm as you card guys. I can do all the shiny and I can do the foil and I can do the gold stamps and all that stuff. So that's,
I'm sure you and I could do a whole video on breaking into TCGs when you're not a C. When you're a tile.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, totally.
Both of you have said something kind of interesting throughout this. And Assad, you said it best, which is treating your Kickstarter audience like investors. In both cases, you both were battle tested by just putting yourselves out there. And in both cases, you have now looked at Kickstarter and the mold of your target audience seems to have changed in treating them as investors. That's kind of how you put it, Assad. And as you're looking at extra things, the day zeros and all of that, I want to get into a little bit of stigma. Did your target audience change? How did you rethink your game as a result of Kickstarter? As a result of kind of, I'm not going to say knee jerk, but kind of that big shift in your mindset. What happened? How do you feel about it as a business? And I'm just going to be flat out, good or bad?
Give me a moment to think about this.
Sure thing. I don't make these easy. That's why I bring alcohol. They get easier as this goes down.
So the question is, how did we rethink the product now that there are essentially investors on board, right?
How did you rethink the product? How did you rethink even your business now that you were looking at something that seemed to cater more to the mindset of an investor, not just a player? And did you make any changes?
So it's difficult because there's no direct positive or negative about this. It's just different. Okay. So there are things that we did during the Kickstarter which we haven't done before. Things like having an early bird promo. One of our philosophies when it comes to promos, when it comes to early editions, stuff like that, is that we don't make them functionally unique. We'll make them alternate art. We might give them some special foiling, but we won't make them functionally unique because we did that once in the past and it ruined meta. It ruined the player's experience.
Yeah, we all saw the Walking Dead secret layer debacle.
Yeah, like you want to separate function from style, right?
Okay.
And the fancy stuff you want to give to collectors, to investors, stuff like that, but it should not impact the player's perspective. But now one of the questions becomes, who is part of each of your ecosystems? Because normally investors are like, when we think of angel investors or capital investors, it's a very clean concept. They give you money because they want money in return down the line. But when you go to Kickstarter, your investors are in multiple different categories. You have the players, but then the players break down into collectors and like players, collectors, investors. Then you got store owners, LGSs, who now have a different set of needs. In our case, we actually catered our Kickstarter a little bit towards content creators. So that also has a different set of needs. And then the other part to the equation is the distributors who have been partners with us since March of this year. And now they're being neglected from the conversation. So what is their downstream value add? There are a lot of different things to consider. And I don't think we spent enough time considering all of those avenues. And at times we made knee-jerk reactions to satisfy one group of people while potentially harming another. Things like giving, when we first launched the Kickstarter, we had stretch goal promos, the special foil versions of the champions that were given to every single backer. Now the LGSs are reaching out to us and saying, well, we're only getting one set of those promos, and why would anybody buy product from us when they can just back the project, get all those promos, and now they have the boxes they need. They don't need to support the LGSs. And that goes against our philosophy of supporting the LGSs. It's a lot of different pieces that you need to balance at the same time. And that, I think, is when you are being driven by people who are like, hey, I've backed you for this much money. You got to make me happy. It can make you make decisions that negatively impact other avenues. So now I have a constant reminder of, here are all my partners. And I look at that regularly. I'm like, these are all the people that need to come into consideration whenever I make a decision. So that was something that came to light during the Kickstarter. I appreciate that it happened. I just wish it didn't happen so publicly at times.
That's fair. I'll probably have some follow-ups on some of that because I think that's huge. A lot of people look at a Kickstarter, myself included, and that's partly why I'm really excited for this, is I just come in as, I'm going to give you $100. That's it. That's all I come in as. One thing I didn't even think about is the distributor angle. I'm excited to explore that a little bit later. But Josh, as somebody who hasn't started their Kickstarter yet, have you changed kind of how you think about who you target, how you target? You mentioned that you're going to do Kickstarter exclusive things. That very much changes the model from I saw your table at a convention. What are your feelings on it?
So my feelings are that I feel that the market has widened, meaning that there are, I think the investors in particular, or the demands of the mass market are visiting the TCG space. And I think that's similar to kind of how people might think of like NFTs or Wall Street bets and stuff like that. You know, I think there's a certain contingency of those people who are making their way into the TCG space and kind of looking around and dabbling around. So I think it's kind of broadening the the appeal or just the number of people. What was that? Sorry?
Awareness, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe awareness. And I think there's a ton of factors in that. I think there was like the Pokemon factor when that kind of blew up like last year. There's a lot of people kind of just like visiting the TCG neighborhood, I guess, if you will. And so that's what I think is kind of different for me, as opposed to when I first created the game and when I've always thought about creating the game, was like, this is a game for people to play this game. And like, that's what it is. And that's all it is going to be. But then when you see these massive amount of new people coming to your neighborhood, you're like looking at them and going, hey, how's it going? And like they're a little confused maybe, and they're like, oh, I don't know really what's going on, but I know I like this and I know I like that. So it's like, okay, well, let me give you some of this and let me give you some of that. And I think that's just really what's happened. Like I said, it's became very aware. I've become aware of it much more since, like, I would say maybe October, which is just like, you know, a snap, a blink of an eye as far as time goes. So yeah, to kind of cater to that group and to and also not necessarily that group. I'm just saying that that's just one thing that I've noticed. But for me personally, when I was, you know, back in 93, 94, I was one of the guys who went and got one of the collector's editions. I don't know if you guys remember those from, you know, the international collector's editions or the collector's editions that Magic put out. So it was like, it was all in one little box, and I got those and I collected those. And so I was like a collector myself. I thought it was really cool that I had something, you know, there was only 5,000 of them in the world, you know, and you just kind of like it, you hold it, and you kind of cherish it. So that's the kind of person I am. So it's a combination of kind of broadening the perspective, I guess, if you will, for the game, as opposed to just being a pure game that I'm going to give to other game players. It's like, well, now's an opportunity for me to kind of broaden, I guess, the appeal. Also, bling and all that stuff is not something that was never going to happen for Zoo Tiles, but it was something that was going to happen much further down the road. So it was going to happen like maybe 2 or 3 years. When I talk to people a lot, I kind of throw this out, like, I really want to use the 93, 94 Magic playbook. That's kind of what I want to do. And what is that playbook? That playbook is getting the game out there, right?
Right.
I mean, when Magic came out, what did it do? It got its game out there. And people found it. Like the way I found it was somebody introduced it to me before we were doing a role-playing game session. And so that's kind of how I got introduced to it. And then I went to the local comic book store and I picked up some cards, and then I liked it and found other people, and we kind of grew from there. That's so different than the current way that I guess you would successfully market a TCG. But I'm kind of really stuck, or I was, I guess, really stuck in that, like, in that mindset, in that, like, romanticism, I guess, if you will, of how, like, a TCG can grow from, like, a basement to, like, you know, a $1 billion company.
Growth. So let
me.
me.
So that's kind of where I originally was, but now I'm kind of looking at it and going, well, I mean, the opportunity is just staring you in the face, Josh. How many more people would like Zoo Tiles if you had shiny foil Zoo Tile and you could put it in the camera and go, look at the shiny, and everyone go like, wow, that's shiny. I really like that. I'll take one of those.
As somebody, I can't say anything to that. As somebody who's done box openings and like, oh, I like the foil. But let's follow up. And I want to get into specific campaigns but I really want to ask this first because we're primed for it. Assad, you mentioned that TCGs was never in a space where you have investors. You can't go and get an angel investor. Now you can. Or now they kind of flock to a Kickstarter. You both have also kind of ultimately said it caters to, Kickstarter is an investment platform of sorts. It caters to that group. You both have also said that the point is to get the game out there. I see, as somebody who is a buyer, I'm semi a collector. I am too poor to be an investor. And I own that. However, one of the things that I've noticed, especially lately, is when you get into Kickstarter, when you get into that territory of the shiny thing, it's not about getting the game out there that much, because I want to keep it sealed. That's the mindset right now in so many places. And Assad, I'm coming after you on this one because you did Kickstarter stamped. How do you entice people to open that product, as opposed to, how do you not turn the players into such investors that your Kickstarter backfires and nobody opens the product and actually gets the game out there?
That is one of those things that plagued me from the very beginning. Originally, our intention was to not put the Kickstarter logo onto the individual cards.
Okay.
And then the point was made, and honestly, it's a lose-lose situation in a lot of ways, because you'll have a group of people who'll say, okay, if there's no Kickstarter logo, then the moment I open the product, it's not more valuable than the retail version, so might as well play with it. But then you have another group of people who are going to say, the moment I open that product, it loses all its value. So what's the point of opening it? If the cards aren't identifiable between the Kickstarter and non-Kickstarter, then there's no downstream value add of that product. And I think at the end of the day, having the Kickstarter logo and having the individual cards branded as Kickstarter cards actually makes them more playable in the short term and more valuable in the long term than if you were to do the opposite. Now, it's not like 100% true,
Sure.
but I think it's a higher conversion. It's a philosophy mindset, and the collectors are going to collect regardless. Investors are going to invest regardless. However you do it, they're going to spin that into a way to appreciate their product their way. You can't change that philosophy. But us as manufacturers, the best we can do is incentivize, like, open it up and incentivize the players to do to play with the product. If I
can read that back, the people who got into the Kickstarter know that there is definitely value in the Kickstarter sealed, also know there's value in Kickstarter stamped cards. And if they want to play the game, they know it's not going to hurt them as much because there will still be some sort of distinguish. So short term, there's no harm because they're getting their hands on it. And they also recognize that long term, that little thing is still going to be more valuable than some unlimited version. And that kind of balances out.
So I'm not a huge Flesh and Blood player, but I have been following the market. I've been watching it. There is a difference between first edition and unlimited print runs of the product where it actually says on the bottom of the card, first edition and unlimited, right? That's essentially the difference between the Kickstarter and the retail. The Kickstarter is your first edition, early access. It's hitting the market a little bit earlier. The retail version will come later. Until the retail version comes out, might as well play with those Kickstarter commons and uncommons because you have them, might as well use them. They're going to be tournament legal. The moment the Kickstarter releases to the wild, they're tournament legal. So might as well use them. And then once you can replace them with non-Kickstarter versions, replace them.
That's a good point.
In the interim, you got them.
That's a really good point, actually. Didn't think of it that way. For you Flesh and Blood out there who are watching this, you would relate that to Tales of Aria. That had a ton of first edition, and we had no problem cracking packs and blind shuffling our draft decks and offending every Magic player in existence by not sleeving cards. No, that's a really good point. Josh, fire away though. Do you see kind of the same thing with yours? I mean, I don't actually know if you plan on, and you don't have to say if you don't want to, any sort of specific branding for Kickstarter specific.
Yeah, no. Well, what I'll say is we're not going to brand for Kickstarter. Well, I don't really want to go into the
Rebel.
Why, but
no, I'm kidding.
But zoo tiles, even from the very beginning, even with our sample tiles, if anyone takes an actual look at a zoo tile, there's going to be a code at the bottom, right there in the middle. And that code designates kind of where it was made and when it was made and for what set it was made. And so that's been happening for since we did like pre-alpha sample tiles. So if you look at that code and you see like a PA1, any collector or anybody would know, oh, okay, I know exactly why that was made and when it was made and where it was made. So for Kickstarter, we're not going to use the Kickstarter logo, but I do imagine that part of that code will be like a KS1 or maybe a KS2 or something. Yeah. But it's very subtle. It'll be very kind of, hidden in that little code at the bottom somewhere. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, but like Assad said, it's no different than a first edition stamp on another product that didn't go through Kickstarter.
Yeah, so exactly. So if you took a look at your starter set one, at the very bottom, you'll see a E1, P1, and then it'll say like THD for Tiger Horse Dog or something. But that E1, P1 stands for first edition, first printing. So, if you bought a bunch of zoo tiles and they all got mixed up, you'd be able to pick that one up and go, oh, I know exactly where this came from, just from looking at that little code right there. So that was already baked in from the beginning. So we're just going to continue with that through like Kickstarter and beyond.
Makes sense. All right, let's actually jump into some campaign stuff. we've got a lot of it. I mean, I think it's still really valuable information in the theory behind it. Lord knows, anytime somebody sees Kickstarter, there is that stigma now. There's so many videos out of, is Kickstarter good for TCGs? This has been helpful for me because, yeah, your point of it's the same everywhere. It's just it started in a different place in Kickstarter. Yeah, you're not wrong there. You touched up on this a little bit throughout your various answers, but I figured I'd get a straight answer from both of you. What do you see as when you do a Kickstarter? Naturally, one of the biggest benefits, you get money. You get a cash flow and to help push forward. What are some non-monetary benefits of a Kickstarter campaign? How do you use those benefits to kind of further your product and brand and game after Kickstarter's over? Josh, I'll kick it to you first.
Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, the first thing you get, I think, is a sense of legitimacy a little bit, because I had people, distributors, LGSs, they just look at me and their first question was, why didn't you do a Kickstarter? Like, they look at me like I'm weird. Like, what planet are you from? Like, you didn't do a Kickstarter? Like, what? And they look at it as like a marketing thing. So they really, like, if you do a successful Kickstarter, then it's kind of like telling, LGSs and everyone else and distributors that, hey, this is a product that has a fan base kind of. And so that doesn't really have anything to do with any financial, but it does have to do with like, there's players here, there's fans here, as opposed to me where I was literally driving around Northern California with my samples going, hey, can I make an appointment to come talk to you at your, LGS owner? And I would show them and they're like, yeah. And they're just, so are you doing a Kickstarter? I'm like, no, I just want you to buy a case of my game because that's what I want you to do. And they're like, okay, cool. I like it. So
I seem to recall a similar story from you, Assad, of I just drove around with things.
Yep. On the road for 16 hours a day, 5 days a week. It was fun times.
Oof.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, Josh, let you finish up.
Yeah, so basically Kickstarter gives you a sense of legitimacy. And also if you have a good product, the success of that Kickstarter, I think, just opens a ton of doors. I know that there's Kickstarters now that are in process, that are in ongoing Kickstarters, and they've already been able to talk to like international distributors about, the future of their game and all this other stuff. All these doors have opened up to them because they are showing the world that there is at least this initial demand for their game. Whereas when I went to Gamma in 2020, I thought I was so naive. I went to Gamma 2020 and I thought, oh, this is going to be so great. I'm going to go there and the distributors are going to play my game and they're going to be like, wow, this is such a great game. Give me like 100 cases. And like, I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but that is not what happens. So yeah, that's absolutely not what happened. Actually, I'm going to take a little second and carve out this little sad story if I can, just for a second. I went to talk to this one. There's distributors, and then there's people that are called consolidators that are kind of a step before distributors. And no distributor would talk to me. They wouldn't even give me the time of day. So generally, when that happens, you go to a consolidator. So then I went and talked to a consolidator, and this was at Gamma. And he was like, Josh, he's like, what you need to do, I don't even want to look at your game, but what you need to do is you need to increase your company's catalog. So this is what I think you should do. Go in and just make some games that you don't even care about. Make a sushi game or something, like, and just build your catalog and then come to me and then we can talk. And I was so heartbroken. I was so
Aww.
What are you talking about? Like, what? You're telling me to make some sushi game that I don't care about just to kind of grow this catalog. So you'll maybe like talk to me about like this game. What about this? What about this thing that I worked so hard for? Don't you care about this at all? And they're just like, no, get out of here with that nonsense. So anyway, why this Kickstarter?
It feels like wanting 3 years of experience right out of college. That's basically what you just said.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
So basically what Kickstarter, that conversation would have gone a lot different. Let's say if I went to him and said, yeah, guess what? My Kickstarter's funding at $300,000 now. And now do you want to like talk about distribution or, helping me get into, broader, international distribution? And that would have been a different conversation. So anyway, that's my take.
I have a 90% gut feeling I know which consolidator you're talking about. And let me say, they also gave me some feedback, which left me a bit heartbroken. But it was, that was a few years ago, about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago. And a lot has changed since then. But yeah, there are people who will be very honest without considering your feelings first.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
rough. All right.
But you know what, it's not even so much, I just want to add, it's not even so much your feelings. It's also about the quality of the product that they don't even want to look at the time, right? So I was showing them this product, and then this was before it was launched, but then, you know, it launched and people started really liking it. So it's just kind of, it's almost an industry, it's a, you know, it's a depth, anyway, it's, they are not setting themselves up for success to look and be able to accept new products that people actually like. Because look, same thing with the SID. Like I don't know what it's up to, but I'm sure it's up to close to 400,000 now, right?
312.
So obviously, what was it?
312. At least I think 312 US, and I have no clue what that is Canadian.
Yeah,
Got it. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. That's absolutely phenomenal. And you know, yeah, that's great. So I think the broader industry is really, I don't know, not setting themselves up to be able to find the new good quality thing when they won't even kind of look at products on an individual basis. You kind of have to play this game in order to kind of get into their system. And I think that's the detriment to them. But anyway, that's
right. Assad, I'm going to have you go, and then I'm going to play devil's advocate to that. But Assad, legitimacy is a great one. Anything else?
There are a few things. I mean, I track my analytics across all social media platforms, seeing how we're growing, and it's awesome seeing, you know, growth on the YouTube platform, on Discord, seeing people organically talking about meta and the philosophy behind the game, and people hunting down some of the older collectible items, seeing our old alpha stuff go crazy on the secondary market. Some of those things have been really nice. I think my favorite part about doing the Kickstarter has been learning how to defend our values as a company. Because leading into the Kickstarter, we were so confident in ourselves. We're like, we know what we stand for. We know what we represent. We know what this game's about. And then you're asked the hard questions. Then you're put, you know, toe-to-toe in an interview on a Discord channel somewhere else where someone's trying to, you know, find credibility in what you're doing. And as a team, we've been able to unite. We've been able to put down a list of what our company values are and define them not by what we believe we should be doing, but knowing that we've done this in the past and that we can reiterate on those things. So I think my biggest takeaway from the Kickstarter has been a strong company culture. And that wouldn't have happened unless we were challenged by the community to defend what we're saying.
That's really cool, actually. More in the, it sucks, you know, when you have that, all that, here comes the negative feedback. Now all these guys are trying to prove themselves. Now you actually have to prove yourselves. It's kind of really cool. Yeah. It's actually really reassuring. I like that answer.
So one of the things, we got 2 videos that we share around the most that I have copied the link for and sent to so many people. One of them is from Scheming Skeleton, tearing apart our recent product launch of like, here are all the cut errors, here are all the typos, all those things. And the second one is your video, Joey.
Wait, what?
About how the beta starter kit was,
it's my video?
You know, was not a good product. And I tell people, you know, we want you to be honest. We want you to be critical, because when that honesty is out there, when we have the opportunity to engage in those conversations, that's where you can show people that we're willing to learn. You show it through evidence, not through saying, hey, I'm willing to become better. But you're like, no, this is a time where we were called out for how bad our product was, and this is how we improved because of it. Showing that history has been amazing.
All right, so now it's time to play devil's advocate, because that leads so quickly into it. Not you, though, for Josh. Actually, it's for both of you, whatever. You both are going to deal with it. So when you were talking about, you know, you need a portfolio, you need to prove yourself to a consolidator, to a distributor that has arguably a ton of these coming through the door. And if you've been paying attention to the market, there's a ton of card games coming through the door. I'll fall on this sword. Questionable legitimacy. How about that? Some of them don't actually have the luxuries that you have of having this battle tested, this community built, or not community built, but community refined couple years behind the product. Constant videos. Be cautious of Kickstarter TCGs. That's what it is. And you guys are in that same vein of you need to show legitimacy to people who would actually distribute, who would make this bigger. How do you show legitimacy? Is it just the dollars? Or is it just, I have to have done this before? To any new Kickstarter, how about let me refine this. Let me, to you who are Kickstarter creators, who you are looking to get a game off the ground, but you don't have 4 years of history behind you. What do you say to them to show confidence and legitimacy in their product so they can launch a successful Kickstarter? They can talk to consolidators, they can talk to distributors and show we are in fact the real deal. Is there an avenue? What do you tell them?
So what I would say is that yes, there is an avenue, and really the only, so there's two ways to go about it, and I kind of discussed them both. Assad is really groundbreaking right here. I mean, he's path making as far as, I would say for everyone to look at what he's done and the journey that he's taken and where he's got to right now.
Agreed.
That is proven. That's proven. So, you get out there and you have to do the grind to get legitimacy. So you got to do the grind. You have to get some people to say that your product's good. That is not you. You have to get some third-party people who will vouch for your product and say that it's genuinely fun. And so that's what he's done. I think it's so cool that he was grinding a little bit more than I was. He was grinding a little bit longer than I've been, and then he put out a Kickstarter kind of just before I did. So it's just like, yeah, I mean that's you go, go little rock star, right? So I would say you have to do that. Now, it doesn't take you 4 years. No, I think that I feel comfortable doing a Kickstarter because we launched Starter Set 1 in November 2020, so it'll be about a year and a quarter before we launch the Kickstarter. But I think that you really have to do something pre-Kickstarter. Like, that's what I would say before you want it. You have to, I know it costs money, believe me. It costs me, you don't have to do a complete print run, but you've got to get enough out that you can send them to independent third-party people, preferably people who are on social media like YouTubers and places like that, to get their honest opinions about what you have. And, I sent, so the person, I'll give a shout out to Minimum Player Count. She was the one who I sent Starter Set 1 to, and she was a real champion for it, and she was a member of that Board Game Spotlight group that ended up giving it, top accolade, one of the top games. And so you have to get people like that, send them the game, they go and they go, wow, this is something interesting and I want to tell the world about it. And once they tell the world about it, you take that message and then you can go show it to distributors. You can go show it to LGS. And that's really, I don't know. The other way to do it is kind of what I talked about before, is where you buy the fake hype and you pour money into it and you go pay all these influencers and, if you buy enough of them and the chorus gets loud enough, then yeah, I'm sure you could probably sway some distributors or some consolidators. But I personally wouldn't go down that route.
I'll let my eyes show you which one I prefer.
Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely, you got to do a little bit of the grind and get some people on your side that are not attached to you, some third-party voices that will love your product and
in a genuine way. Like, you've got to go proper grassroots with it. Like, it sounds like proper, just grassroots marketing campaign.
Yeah, I really think that's why, but it's hard because both Assad and I guess, I didn't know this until this interview, he was out grinding, pounding the pavement, and I was out pounding the pavement. And so, from there, you're going to get a bunch of people who just don't care. I've gotten, then you're going to get some people who really love it. And then you just got to focus on that. Same thing when you send out samples to people, influencers, right? You're going to get a lot of people, oh yeah, send me out. I'll do a video. You send it, crickets. They never do a video. They never do anything. And you're just like, okay, on to the next one. And then you get people like Joey who are like, get it. And you're just like, oh God, I don't know what he's going to think. And he's like, oh, this game is so good, blah, 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 blah. So then, and you know, it's funny that Assad said that your video was the one he sends out the most. Your
That
video is also the
scares
one I
me,
send
by the
out
way.
most. Wow, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you've got to get some of that legitimacy, and I would say it takes you anywhere from a year to 4. That's what I would say before you do a Kickstarter. And let me just add one last thing. I'm in a lot of Discords. I'm talking about games and stuff like that. Not necessarily Zoo Tiles, but just typically about, you know, the industry and the community and stuff like that. And it just helps your conversations when you're talking about your game to go, you know what? Here's my rule book. Boop. Here's my video of this person who said it wasn't trash. Boop. As opposed to a lot of these people who are trying to rush, I don't want to say rush, but they're trying to kind of get to a Kickstarter before they do that legwork. All these people are asking that question, where's your rule book? You know, is this good? Blah, 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 blah. And so there's a lot of energy that you don't have to there's a lot of defensive posture that you don't have to take if you have a rule book. Yeah, you want to see if my game's good? Here you go.
Here
Here's
we
the
go.
rules.
Here's
Go check it
all the
out.
stuff that I've made. Here's a
Here's
question.
all the stuff.
When it comes to engaging in the community online, though, if all you're there has to be some just appreciation for the space. Because if all I do is go into Discord communities and I talk about my game and my rulebook, doesn't that come across as pandering?
Oh, I don't try to talk about Zoo Tiles at all. I really love the space. I really like it, and I find it so fascinating because it's really changed so much. The interesting thing about the space, I would say, within the last like 3 years is how different it's changed. Like 2018 is when I dusted off, you know, Zoo Tiles to kind of work on it some more, to kind of polish up some things, and there wasn't Flesh and Blood on my radar. There wasn't MetaZoo on my radar. There wasn't Genesis on my radar. And now there's like 15, 20 games getting geared up for like Kickstarter.
Nostalgic, Sorcery, Grand Archive, MetaZoo.
Yeah, none of that was
Titan.
on my radar. And so it's just very, very interesting. That whole phenomenon, let's say, and I always say it's a revisit. It feels to me very similar to like 94 to maybe 96, you know, which I mentioned earlier in the interview. Just this whole gold rush, right? It's a different gold rush because before people were gold rushing with their gold, they were making games back then using their own capital. But now a lot of people are going to Kickstarter to get capital kind of to do these games. But at least to me, it feels very in the same vein kind of thing.
For sure. There needs to be a trust in that system. Yeah, there has to be a trust in the system. Fun story is Assad didn't actually know that I had Genesis on my radar until about the time, if not slightly after I made the video. Because he didn't send it to me. That didn't happen. You sent it to me direct. I forgot exactly why. I think you saw like the MetaZoo review and the Genesis review, and you thought that was cool, and you wanted me to do it with yours. I don't know why. Neither of them were good reviews. They were not.
I think I've mentioned this before, and the reason why is because you were the only one, like I mentioned before a couple times, you know, like you get all these hype people who are like hyping these things up. And so I'm looking at people what content creators do I trust? Do have a voice that I think is like their own voice and not a voice that's been bought and paid for. And so, and yours was like really one of the only ones in the TCG space where I was like, okay, you know, gosh, I could go really negative now. So I'm going to try.
No, don't.
And I'm going to be, and I'm just going to say, that's a trusted voice. That's just put it that way. That's a trusted voice. And if he can pick, and you know, the way that you dissected certain things with the other games, it showed me, at least I felt that it was like, oh, he understands these things called balance. He understands these things called like these typical things that would make a good gaming experience, right? So that's the reason why I
said whatever that flying angel was on that was crap. She won so many games on her own.
Yeah.
But
that was the thing.
So the story really quick is that I didn't get it from, I got it from Jordan, Scheming Skeleton. Because we were just randomly talking about Flesh and Blood stuff. And he was like, I've got some stuff that I'm not using for this game, Genesis. Would you like to try it out? And I said, sure, I'll try out whatever. You know, I'll gladly try whatever. So I forgot what I sent him, but he sent me the beta for Genesis. I tried it out, and that's kind of what happened. But again,
It did
that's
not go well.
grassroots. So again, all you creators out there, it's not just sent to one person, because they're going to send to others, they're going to send to others, they're going to send to others. That's what happened here. And I know, for you, that exploded. You went everywhere all of a sudden, because our community, especially our Flesh and Blood community, was just like, this is new, this is new, this is cool, this is neat. Let's share this with everybody. I love that stuff. I want to jump into some factors of building the campaign really quick, but because everyone's going to know how this suddenly became full, I'm rocking out Death by King Cake at Oscar Blues. This is just a basic ale: vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, cacao nibs, orange peel, and pecans. It is literally king cake as a beer. I find goofy stuff.
I want to just...
Yeah,
if you don't
so
mind.
I didn't even let you answer the question. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I'm terrible.
going back to the distributor, it's really... It's an interesting conversation, because I got distribution before doing the Kickstarter, unlike many games out there. And I'm sure there have been Kickstarter games where they got distribution before, but I know Metazoo got their distribution post Kickstarter. A lot of these games are on Kickstarter right now are in the conversation for getting distribution. I had distribution in March and did the Kickstarter in December. So I've had distribution for a while, and I've been hunting down distribution since 2017. It was about, early 2018 where I started talking to our first distributors. And it's a very different experience, because where Kickstarter is about getting investors, you need to prove the product. Distribution is a business partnership. You have to prove your business plan. And a lot of times I didn't just come to them with here's my product, check it out. It's here's my sell sheet. Here are some analytics. Here are references. Here's my business plan. Here's my 5-year strategy here. And then I had to invite them out to tournaments, to championships, get them to meet the community, show them that I am putting in the legs. And then every 6 months I'll check in with them and be like, hey, I know you're not interested in Genesis right now, but I want to let you know we picked up 3 more stores. We picked up 6 more stores. We're here. Wow. We just got into the US. I was checking in with them on a regular basis. Got to a point where, I'm friends with them on Facebook, and we're sending each other happy birthdays and things like that. You build those relationships over 4 years. Mm-hmm. And then eventually when we started spreading in the US, I reached out to a few distributors, and then one of them was like, you know what? I see your growth. I see what you're doing here. I see the potential. I'll try. And they picked up some product, and it sold almost immediately. Then they picked up everything, and they just kept on taking everything. It was actually a consolidator, not a direct distributor, but and we haven't been able to keep product in our warehouse for more than a few weeks now.
Awesome. Yay.
So it was, distribution is a totally other conversation than working with Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is investment. It's about proof in the product, proof in you as a CEO and the way you can communicate your product, your company's values, and all those things. But with working with the distributor, it is a lot more about the business plan itself. It's a lot more conversations about, this is how much we're spending on this. This is how much we're growing in that.
So let me follow up on that one. So if I'm a Kickstarter who I'm brand new, brand spanking new, barely have a game, I get $500,000 from it. And I should disclaim this by, I am not targeting any specific Kickstarter in this question. Don't come after me, everybody. I get $500,000 in a Kickstarter. You're telling me that a distributor is not going to look at that success and be sold.
The distributor is... sorry, what were you going to say, Josh?
I'm going to be in the camp that I think they will.
They will.
They will. Okay, all right.
So the thing is, distributors, at the end of the day, distributors and LGSs are looking about the profit margins, right? Can they sell this product? And if you show them on Kickstarter, hey, you could sell a bunch of product, they will take that on. They will sell that product. But how they treat the product, the relationships with the LGS, with the communities, that is a different conversation. That process is very, very different. Okay. There's a lot more intricacies at place. So I'm really happy. I got my partnerships with the distributors before doing the Kickstarter. I reached out to each of them. I asked them directly, hey, would you be okay if I did a Kickstarter? If I did this Kickstarter, would we lose you as a partner? And none of them were said no to that. They were saying, hey, are we going to get some product out of this Kickstarter?
Right, of course.
But the distributors realize that Kickstarter is a marketing campaign. It is going to be, the downstream impacts are going to be very valuable. But what are your relationships with the distributors? How are you growing that business conversation? Because that is dealt with very differently than dealing with the community who's back.
So no matter what you think your Kickstarter is going to do, if I'm a card game creator, I need to start that relationship well before the Kickstarter. Doesn't have to be years before, but I have to start that prior.
The earlier, the better. The more you know about the distributors' wants, demands, and what they will do for you and what they won't, the better you're prepared about your own business decisions.
Okay.
You don't want to walk into a partnership assuming one thing and then find out that they're never going to deliver on that.
Let me move the goalposts really quick. So I set a $500,000 Kickstarter. You had a $10,000 goal in your Kickstarter. Let's say you make 12. Is there a line of demarcation? Does the distributor care about a 12,000 versus 10,000 hit? It's much more attractive when you say 500,000 off of a $10,000 ask. Does 12 get them to move? Does any success get them to move?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this is just from me. I think it's definitely, there is some monetary thing. I would just maybe throw out maybe 100,000. I don't really know. But, distributors aren't all just one monolithic group. Distributors are individual companies with individual people and have different takes on things. So I'm in some really big distributors, and I'm talking to more regional ones who I have not been able to get into yet. And so, but the reasons are completely different. Like the larger distributor who I was able to get in really liked the momentum they saw with like the awards and all that kind of stuff. Where the other one wants to see more, like right now we just have one product, right? So they want to see Starter Set 2 and maybe our boost packs come out. So they want to see kind of more,
I want to see Starter Set 2.
Product. So those are different reasons, but generally at the core, I think, they want to show, they want to see some spark. They want to see something like this is a hot new thing. And I don't think 12,000 speaks of a hot new thing. Right. I think maybe 500,000 or 100,000 or 200,000 probably speaks of something that can be the hot new thing. That's just my take.
It's also going to be referrals, right? Of the people who are backing your Kickstarter, how many of those LGSs are talking to the distributor being like, hey, you should be looking into this Kickstarter too. It's also going to come down to, do they see that it's a right fit for their catalog? Are they currently carrying games like that are doing really well? Are they carrying games like that aren't doing well, right? They're business at the end of the day. And whatever is going to bring in the best dollars and be a product that they can sell easily, that's the one that they're going to be interested in. So if they see that there's a product out there that is super, super popular, Flesh and Blood, MetaZoo, games like those, they're going to be more interested in trying to win that contract. If they see a game that the Kickstarter didn't do very well, the marketing behind it doesn't seem really great, and the CEOs don't seem very cooperative, then I don't think there is a particular dollar value that will tip it in their favor. It comes down to a multitude of factors.
I've been wanting to ask a question for ages, and I'm still not going to ask it because it doesn't make sense right now. Where we're at is better. Assad, in your Kickstarter, you have a series of retail backers. You have tiers for retail backers. Yes. As it stands, I see 20 of them. I don't know why I just held up 2. Imagine there's a 0 there. Whatever. I told you, the more this goes... Anyway, you've got 20 backers and LGSs. When it comes to creating tiers... it sounds like it'd be great to go to a distributor and say, not only do I have a whole bunch of players, but I've also got I've got LGS tiers. If I cater my Kickstarter and I get $100,000 just from players, but not a single one of them is an LGS owner, Is that just as is there a balance? Do I need to have LGSs in? Is that kind of what went into some of your decision to make those retail tiers? What went into your decision to make the tiers that you had? How about that?
What went into our decision? There's two sides to it. Our decision was because we have retail partners and we wanted to cater our Kickstarter to help with our retail partnerships. LGS. So
you already had them in place.
Yeah. A lot of these retail partners, there are some that are new. A lot of them are partners. Actually, 35. Okay. There's three different retail tiers. There's 3 different retail tiers.
I only saw 2. I'm sorry.
So a lot of them, there are quite a few that are new. A lot of them are our current retailers that are backing us, right? So we put in retail tiers because retailers are a core fundamental part of our business model. Mm-hmm. Now, on the other hand, there's a particular TCG out there called Exodus, I believe. They're working a lot more of a B2C business model. They want to sell directly to the players and build communities directly to them. They have some retail partners, I'm sure they do, but I would not be surprised if, if there were Kickstarters out there, TCG Kickstarter out there that don't have retail tiers. However, it feels, I think you will put out a negative vibe because if the LGSs, the retailers don't feel like they can be part of that conversation, be part of that equation, that'll turn them off. And at the end of the day, like we've mentioned it before, we've talked about content creators, but at the end of the day, it's influencers. It's not just content creators that need to be talking positively about your product. It needs to be any influencer. And LGS owners are the linchpin of the influencer market. If you talk to people, how did they learn about the game? It's, I learned it through my friend. How did your friend learn? They learned it through their friend. And then you trail it back. Eventually, it either goes back to a content creator or an LGS owner.
Yeah, that's how Flesh and Blood's grown. So,
yep. And so you want to target those influencers. You want to know that you want them to know that they are important to your business model. And so, if anything, I would be very interested and very encouraged by a Kickstarter that actually doesn't have a player tier, only has retail tiers, or only has content creator tiers. And then being like, hey, if you're a player that's interested in this Kickstarter, talk to your LGS, get them to back the project. That would be a very interesting kind of experiment.
Awesome with the spice. I like it.
Because the players are critical, right?
Yeah.
You can't deny that. The players, the investors, the collectors are all critical to your industry, but you got to think about what your business model is. And in this space, the strongest business models, time and time again, Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Flesh and Blood have proven it's the B2B developer to LGSs. Now, some of them may have wavered here and there, but never completely left that model. They've never completely destroyed it because the LGSs are so important. So long answer, that's why we put in the retail tier.
Nice. I like it. So Josh, I'm going to append a little to this with you specifically because you have such a unique product in that, and I know you hate hearing it, it looks like a board game. Yeah. I've cracked your code.
I've gotten that a lot of times too. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So as you look into it, you have a proven product that is your starter sets. Nobody has ever seen the booster packs. I don't even know what the vision is right now for the booster packs. When you get into your tiers in Kickstarter, when you get into things that the community who is already a fan of you has not seen yet, how do you scale? How do you, if Assad has the luxury of LGS is already seeing kind of all of it in a way. You don't. How do you structure and adjust to that?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great question. For the first Kickstarter we're going to do is just starter set 2. So it's going to basically be like, we have LGSs that are regular customers of ours as well. So we talk to them and everything, and they're so excited about starter set 2. So I don't think that will be a difficult Kickstarter to kind of introduce to people, and people who are familiar with Zoo Tiles they'll be like, oh, I can't wait for this because It's just like Starter Set 1, except it's Starter Set 2, and it's got the other 6 creatures and
I'm right
dragons
there
in
with
it.
you.
I want all that stuff. So
I want one of the 72 that are alive.
Yeah, right?
Anyway.
So, but to your point about boosters, that's a great question, and something that I need to think about a little bit more. I mean, I am huge. I just want to echo everything that Assad said about the importance of LGSs, and I just want to echo that. I mean, we're making our booster packs specifically focused around drafting, about the ability to draft. So, for instance, so we want people coming to their LGS to run drafts and have fun in that LGS environment. That's my whole mindset as far as like booster packs go. So how we communicate that, maybe what we'll do is get some booster packs before and maybe show some video of, go to one of our supporting LGSs and maybe do one and maybe have pieces of that within the Kickstarter or something like that. I don't know yet, but that's a good point as far as how you kind of communicate that story and the value for the boosters itself. Yeah, that'll be something.
I'm terrified for Zoo Tiles drafts. I cannot wait to do Zoo Tiles drafts. That sounds like a mess. Because I know the game. I know that there are 12 angles that you get to take this game as far as how you build power out of it, and that seems like a mess. I'm excited. All right, I'm going to jump into the one that I've been holding for a half freaking hour. Because we keep dancing around the idea. Assad, you talked about needing financial capital. And I'm thinking about, like, I don't know what costs of things are. I don't. And I'm going to own that I don't know what costs of things are here. What factors drove your financial goal? Because I look at what, even before you hit 300,000, I look at the demand that you had. I looked at the audience that you had. I don't know how 15,000 Canadian. I don't know how that gets you over some hump that you're missing. So what drives your financial goals for a Kickstarter?
It's interesting. Some of the deciding factors really came into the fact that, like, what was the intention? What was the goal? What are you trying to use the money for? And a big purpose for this money was marketing. It's growth, it's awareness, it's being able to do things on that factor that we weren't able to do other places. Origins as a set, we knew it was going to hit market one way or another. As a company, we're already steamrolling towards being able to release this product. Now we're able to do it in a much fancier way, but that product itself was always going to hit market. The big goal here was, can we leverage this capital to do things like redo our gameplay video, be able to build some of the digital assets that we need, be able to refine some of the software that we're trying to develop. There's a lot of things like that were the big focus of what we want to use this capital for. And then the other part to it is, between the team I have, I am the extremely modest, extremely conservative one, because I honestly did not think we would hit that funding goal within the first, like, I thought it would take about an hour to 2 hours to hit
30 seconds.
And then on top of that, I thought all the stretch goals we had, that would take us 30 days to hit all the stretch goals. And we hit all of our initial stretch goals in the first 24 hours. I know that the community loves the game. I know that they're there and they're supportive and they're ready to back us and they're ready to be part of the journey. But I did not want to assume that was going to happen. I didn't want to be like, yes, it's 100% going to happen. I wanted to have that room to be like, you know what, in case it doesn't, I'm still happy with whatever we get, wherever we move forward to. So I was definitely the conservative one.
You had so much grassroots. You had so many people behind you. You had years of this. Was there any doubt in your mind that you weren't going to hit that goal?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. And it's because, yes, we have a lot of momentum. We have a lot of people who have, there were people who were telling us, hey, we're going to be putting in 15,000 into your Kickstarter, but it's a lot of, they said it, but I until it actually happens, it's hard to believe, right?
That's fair.
It's like the moment when you're thinking to yourself, you know, as a kid, you're like, oh, I don't have any friends. And then someone throws you a party and you're like, oh, wait, yeah, I have friends. When did that happen? Like,
that's fair. There's a big difference between actually saying I'm going to open the wallet and then opening the wallet.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I wanted to be conservative. I wanted to, I did not want to get my heart broken in a lot of ways. But the community was there. They rallied and it started expanding so much faster than we expected it to.
So let me ask you this very directly. This could be as simple or as complicated of a yes or no question as you want. When you set 15,000, was that actually what you needed? Or was that just something that maybe you could attain? If you only get 15,000 off of this Kickstarter, do you get to do what you actually wanted to do?
That allows us to do what we wanted to take the next step. Our next step was actually putting real dollars into marketing. To date, we put about, leading up to the Kickstarter, we put $25 a month into Facebook marketing, and that was it for the past 4 years. That's all we ever did when it came to marketing. Even shipping out packages to like content creators and stuff like that. I always had to be conservative. I had to say, do we actually have the $10 to ship this package out? Because a lot of times we didn't, right? I literally had no money. So I couldn't even ship like content creators would reach out to me and be like, hey, I can you send me a sample copy? I'm like, I have to go make a sale first. And then with the profit from the sale, I'll send you that sample copy.
Grinder.
Like, it was just not possible. So even with $5,000 in actual marketing dollars, that could have changed the landscape for us.
Yeah, that'll be huge.
So that's the truth of it. It wasn't about releasing the set. It was about really taking the company to the next level and having real marketing dollars.
That's such a big takeaway. And Josh, I'm going to send this over to you in just a sec. Because again, I love this because we got somebody who is super successful and someone who's about to get started. And you're both great in what you've created. I think one of the biggest takeaways, because when I look at a Kickstarter, when I see a Kickstarter, and I think this is the case for a lot of people, they literally think it's to get it off the ground. And Assad, what you're literally saying is that's not a problem for us. We really wanted to expand marketing and we wanted to use this to increase reach and awareness. And that's not something that I don't think a lot of people consider with this. Just like Josh, you were saying with yours, you have the money to print this in a basic form. But this Kickstarter is going to do so much more than that. That has nothing to do with I need this or the game dies. So, question to you. Factors in financial... I don't even know, and you don't have to share what your financial goals are. What do you want to do with a successful Kickstarter?
No, I'm a very simple person. And so...
$20, that's my goal.
No. I'm a very simple person. In my simplicity, I just want to keep things where it's either very binary, very yes or no. Either the community wants it and there is a real strong support for it, or Josh, no, you need to go back to the drawing board and whatever success you found early was, kind of a fluke. So what I want to do is what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a quote for all the different blingy versions that I might want to do for Starter Set 2 and get shipping quotes and to the distributor. And I'm going to double that. And that way I know I can have some, in case, some weird thing happens or there's some extra costs involved, I can cover those extra costs. What I don't want to do is undercut the amount that I need to actually produce, nice collector's editions, and all that kind of stuff. And, let me just kind of make a little sidetrack. The competition is really almost on a daily basis, really upping their game as far as what some of these other are doing. Like I had never even thought in my mind about the idea of making a see-through acrylic box that I know some other Kickstarters are doing. Like if you buy their box, they're gonna either as an add-on or include it, and you put that collector's edition in the acrylic box and they ship that in the acrylic box. Wow, that's I just never even thought of that, and then that's like a really cool thing. So It
You're gonna
just
get into
seems like
serialized, name printed metal tiles. Is that what's coming next?
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do metal, but
Please don't.
your point is, yeah, there's a lot of people are just bringing so much more to the table, and what that does is it raises costs, right? So I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm going to find out what the costs are, and I'm going to say, hey, community, when the Kickstarter comes out, I'm going to be very transparent. I'm going to say, this is the quote for all the cool things that you guys want, and I'm going to double that just in case there's some weird stuff that might happen that I can recover from, because my worst nightmare, and part of the reason why I didn't do a Kickstarter in the first place, was because, you know, you set a funding goal for what you need, and then something weird happens, and then you can't fulfill, and then you're just like, oh man, that's the worst. So
it's the Groupon
I'm gonna double
problem.
that, and then same thing with shipping, right? I'm gonna find the shipping quotes, double that, and then that's gonna be my goal. And if we make it, wonderful. And if we don't, then that's the community telling me, you know what? Yeah, maybe.
So what you're saying is a bunch of your Kickstarter money is to make a cool ass Kickstarter. That's what all right.
Yeah.
Again, you've already proven your game, so I have no problem supporting that. If I had never played Zoo Tiles, if I had no faith, for me personally, that's a flag. That would be a flag for me. If I know nothing about your game, I've seen nothing about your game, but you've created a bunch of cool things, I'm a little bit worried.
Right. No, exactly. So there's a lot of people who are going to visit the Kickstarter, obviously, who have never heard of Zoo Tiles. And the Kickstarter is not just going to consist of just like, oh, look at all this fancy Zoo Tile stuff, without a context of why they should care. So there's going to be tons of videos, tons of quotes, tons, like pretty much every nice thing anyone's ever said or you know, mentioned about Zoo Tiles is going to be packed into that Kickstarter. So that's kind of where hopefully we prove ourselves, and then, you know, then yeah, if you like that, then here's some fancy version. But it's not going to be just a fancy version. We're gonna have we're gonna have different versions. So if they want to just get the base version of Starter Set 2, you know, bless their heart, they can do that as well.
All right. So I've got two more questions for this little dance. One's going to be a generic, and one is targeted directly at you, Josh. Assad got his Kickstarter stamp. Now it's your turn. But we'll do that in a sec. Okay. We'll do that one last. I'll save that one for last. No, I don't want to do that one last. I want to do a general one last. All right, Josh, this one's to you. But Assad, I'm really curious your take on it. Zoo Tiles. The second that you go down the anime route, because you went down the anime route, in my opinion, you split your audience in two. You have the ones who are super passionate about anime, and they're going to have a heightened awareness and appreciation, and you have everyone who just leaves. I'd love to hear your take, because I know you are really sharp with your marketing, especially in a Kickstarter space. So feel free to reference Grand Archive here, because they're doing the same thing, an anime card game. What are the unique challenges that you find? Do you even make an attempt to go after the non-anime audience? How do you fight in that space? And Assad, I would love to figure, and just so you can be thinking about it, I'd love to get your take on when it came to IP and your styles, kind of why you picked where you picked, and honestly, kind of how you felt about like an anime theme. But Josh, fire away. Solve the anime problem for me.
So you are not wrong. You're absolutely, and just a little additional context to that, you know, we talked about when I went to Gamma, and there were people who would walk right by and see the anime and just like keep on walking. And we were having a demo night where we had, I think you and I maybe talked about the classic Zoo Tiles versus the...
You showed me those, and they're cool.
Exactly, right? So I took both of those sets to Gamma, and there were people who were like, oh yeah, let us know when these classic ones come out. They weren't having any of the anime stuff. So it was literally splitting, right? It was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. There are people who actively dislike anime and who do not want anything to do with that. And that is just the reality. I mean, I could talk for hours on the subject. So you're absolutely right. What I found is, you know, you can't assume who anime style is acceptable to. There's people who I've sent, influencers who were just very much, who you would say was just like I don't know, I don't want to I don't want this to be insulting, but just like a regular typical person, right? But then they go, oh, I love these. These are so cute and whimsical, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You would never peg them to somebody who liked anime style stuff, right?
Yes.
So I have not yet been able to look at somebody and say, oh, they are either pro or con anime. So I'm just going to put it out there and hopefully get the people who are not, I guess, offended by the anime style. And I'm going to try to get as many people on board as I can.
So do you do anything from a marketing perspective? Because I don't know what your Kickstarter is. Do you market it as an anime tile game? Do you market the anime side of it at all and hope that generates, from an SEO perspective and just a keyword search perspective? Or do you just focus on, you created a kick-ass chess game?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, it's all about the game from my perspective. I mean, you mentioned Grand Archive. I think they're doing a great job, especially with the limited art that they seem to have. They're able to create a lot of excitement for their project, and that's great. But Zoo Tiles really, at the end of the day, is a game. It's a game, and what people should know, if they don't know already, is that Zoo Tiles Hime is one skin of the game, if you will, but there will be other versions of the game that don't have an anime style to it. But we led with Zoo Tiles Hime, and we've been super blessed with the art that we have for the game and the whimsical nature of the art direction. So that's what we've got.
I'll keep my mouth shut on other fun things.
There you go. And that's what we've got. That's what we're here with Zoo Tiles Hime to present to people, and those that love it and want to enjoy it and engage with it, that's what we're here for. If that's not for someone, check back with us in a couple years. Maybe we'll have some Zoo Tiles something else that might
Zoo Tiles Game of Thrones. Right. Please don't do that.
No, not Zoo Tiles Game of Thrones. But yeah, so that's my answer. You're 100% right. Absolutely right down the middle. You're just carving away a bunch of people who won't even look at it. But it is what it is, and we're standing on the game. That's where I'm at.
All right. So Assad, you have a different challenge in that you're building from scratch. You're building a world that nobody knows, nobody's ever seen, and they have to become invested in either that or the game. How do you push that out there? All right, let me add to this. I've seen plenty of Kickstarter campaigns that do this fun, cute little video of let's share with you the world that we've created. You are no different in the first maybe 15 to 20 seconds of your Kickstarter before you show up in the video and just talk. You do. That's actually going to lead into my last question. But for you specifically, from a marketing perspective, how do you, or how much do you care to market the world that you've created in a Kickstarter?
Can we, have I ever told you the story of how the Kickstarter video happened?
No.
So, we hired a marketing company to make the Kickstarter video, and that's the one you're talking about with the battle-tested thing.
Yeah.
It was a marketing company that we hired. They were going to make the entire video. They told us a few days leading up to the Kickstarter, I'm like, oh, so where's the video? And they're like, where's the assets to make the video? I'm like, oh, wait, you were waiting on me? They're like, yeah, we were waiting on you this entire time. So I sent them all the assets. They put the video together. The night before, I'm like, oh, where's the video? They're like, we're compiling it right now. It should be ready for you by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. I wake up in the morning to a message being like, our computer crashed last night. We don't have a video for you. So from the Kickstarter went live at 10 a.m. From 9 a.m., I was downloading Premiere Pro, learned how to use the software, made that entire video, and put it up on the Kickstarter. That's why the Kickstarter went live at 10:01, because I made the video and it was pending to upload onto the Kickstarter, and I was a minute late.
I feel so bad for the question I'm about to ask you, but
that
keep
is a
going.
Great story.
So yeah, I learned everything that morning and put the video up. So we had the video assets. It's just laying everything together, putting in the audio and the music and stuff like that. All of that happened the morning of. So that's why we led with that trailer for the world, because that was the prettiest thing we had to lead with. So might as well put that there.
So in a perfect
as-
world, do you even include that? What was the video? What was it supposed to be?
So the video's beginning was kind of what you saw on the Facebook advertising, which is more about the company history, focusing
So-
more on this is what we've done. We've been here for 4 years. We're not a fly-by-night company. We've been in the market for a while. We're ready, and our goal right now is to expand.
So despite having 4 years of world building, you focused on the legitimacy of your product.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because again, it's investment, right? Yes, you can invest into the game, but the investors we're looking for are people who see the vision that I see and want to help me not just in the Kickstarter campaign, but take it further. Back the Kickstarter and then go tell their friends to back the Kickstarter and then go build a small community where they can start playing organized play and then they'll buy the next product. It's about the investors who are looking towards the future, not just the ones who are looking in the present. So in the ideal world, I would have focused on saying, hey, I am someone worth investing into. My company is a company worth investing into. Don't just be here for the now, be here for the long run. And together we'll make this project succeed.
So when you look on Kickstarters, when you're out there in the world, is that some of the stuff that really intrigues you of not just in the moment, but you seem to have a future plan?
Yeah, like if I want to back a Kickstarter, I want the opportunity to be able to sit down with the CEO, either in a panel or, a town hall or some sort of opportunity where I get, where me or people in my same group can ask them the questions. I want to be participating in a Dragon's Den type of situation or Shark Tank or any of those type of shows. And this is what I actually told people who are backing the Kickstarter. I would join the Discord and tell them, hey, you should be asking me all the challenging questions before you back my Kickstarter. If you back my Kickstarter already, take a moment, challenge me, ask me all of those difficult questions, go buy a sample of the game, go buy the 2-player starter kit, play it at home, learn the game, and then back the Kickstarter. Don't back the Kickstarter before that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that was a big focus for me, and that's what I would want to be able to do before I back any Kickstarter.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that just helps so much to be able to say, go buy it and play it and then decide for yourself. Gosh, I just think that's priceless to be able to say that.
Mm-hmm.
So last question, and then we'll wrap it all up. Which by the way, this has been freaking awesome. Throwing that out there. Cause I really came in like sometimes I've got about 15 years of marketing experience. I've never done anything with Kickstarter. So I thought I had some ideas on where the heck this was going to go. I was so wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong. I'm thrilled to be wrong on this. So Assad, you were mentioning things like, I want to see future. I want basically access. Accessibility is really important. For those of you who are either looking at Kickstarter campaigns or looking at starting Kickstarter campaigns, I want to cater to those who are card game creators as well. When you created yours, Assad and Josh, you're just replace when you created yours with when you do create yours. That's easy translation for this question. When you created yours, what did you want to make sure was included? What were the exact elements? Did you want to include the stretch goals? I'm pretty sure you wanted to include the legitimacy. That was pretty clear. Were there any keywords, buzzwords? What was the main message you wanted to get across? Did you want to make sure that if I saw Genesis randomly, what was your point to it?
A big part of it was I wanted people to know that there was, it's so hard because you said, we've already talked about legitimacy. It's a lot about saying we're not new to the scene, that we're not here as a cash grab. We're not here to ruin the fun, right? We're here to create a game, to get people playing it. We want it to be accessible to everyone. And we want to be accessible. So a big thing for me, which I really love doing, and I don't know if many people have taken advantage of it, is like all of our contact details are in there. Email addresses to me, Alex, Chris, and Damian. All of our email addresses are there. Being able to show the community that, hey, we're here. We're not trying to be a scam. We are trying to be a legit company that'll be here not just 4 years ago, not just today, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. We want to be here for the long haul. And I think showing people we did a bunch of cool stuff. We're doing something amazing right now. Here's a next 4-year plan. Go check it out. We've got cool things coming up, right? Like all that stuff I think is very important. On top of it was also showing how the art's gotten better. We were talking about art earlier. Art is always something that's subjective. There are going to be people who give you a lot of a hard time, no matter what the situation is. We've gotten a lot of bad reviews about our artwork. So showing people, hey, we picked the direction we're going in. We're cool with that. So being able to showcase a lot of that artwork too.
I want to ask you on one very specific detail, and that's the video. The video itself. And this is the one in your Kickstarter. So you get a little bit of the world, and then we get you.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't a joke. Don't worry. One of the things that I think is a big separation, because I've seen there's about 10, 20 Kickstarters out there. Some of them have this big, flashy, clearly professionally done animation, and then that's it. And then some of them, like Nostalgics is one that does this, and it's why I'm really intrigued by Nostalgics, because it's literally the creator, like what you did, getting on video, not the best quality of video, and just talking and saying, here is my story. How impactful and how important was that for you? Or was that literally, I have a third of a video, I'm just going to get in front of a camera?
So that part of it, I had recorded, a few days.
Okay, so that was an asset you delivered.
It was an asset I delivered.
Okay.
And I went down that approach because, again, when I'm looking at investors, when I'm looking at, when I've talked to capital investors, I've talked to bank owners, I've talked to, millionaires and CEOs and all that stuff, and ask them, if you're investing into a company, what do you care about? And they're like, it's the CEO, it's the team, it's the people who are behind the project. And I feel like if you're going to ask people to invest into you, the people who I want investing into Genesis and into this Kickstarter are people who, not just believe in the game, but also believe that I can lead this company. And that they appreciate what I've done so far. So I think it was very important to put myself in front of the camera.
Nice. I personally love that answer. I'm a big fan. I've told you many times, it's literally why I think so many people back you, is because you're in front of everything. And you're not terrible. Thank you for that.
I like hearing that I'm not terrible with that slight confusion in your voice.
I figured I'd set the bar real low and let the internet just figure out where to go from there. No, for everybody who is watching, who has never experienced Genesis specifically, and don't worry, Josh, you'll get your moment here. I don't mean to discredit you. Assad's he is at the front of damn near every conversation. He is wonderfully humble. That is why so many members of the community definitely do back him, is because he will talk. And he has no problem saying what he's failed at. He has no problem saying lessons learned. It's been fantastic. So I'm personally honored for the friendship and the relationship that I have with you. Josh,
before we go, I just want to echo that. No, that's great. And I think it's absolutely true that Assad has that reputation within the community. When I'm in different Discord channels and Genesis comes up, everybody, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say one bad word or anything that's like, oh, you should be doing this, that. I think it's love. It's pure.
I've refrained from swearing because you are here. That is the level.
Yeah. So yeah, props to that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's great.
All right. So Josh, go ahead. If you had more to say, go ahead.
No, I was just going to jump into my answer to, I think, what you were asking.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
When you create, so I'll set it up so I can make a graphic. I'm going to do graphics in chapters so that way it's easy to follow. I probably shouldn't have said that 1 hour and 40 minutes into this. I should have said that too. Surprise, everybody. You could have cheated. This whole thing. So yes, as you look at creating yours, especially as somebody who I know you've also seen other Kickstarters, you and I have talked about flags for days and things that we're worried about. What do you want to ensure you tell people? If I randomly go to you, and actually, I'll add, let's make it more fun. I randomly see you when I search for card game or game, and I see, it's an anime one. What do you want to say? What's the message in your Kickstarter campaign?
The big message for me is going to be, is it cute and is it fun? Actually, it should be fun first. Is it fun?
Fun first, please.
Yeah, definitely fun. So I bumped into this thing. That looks really, really fun. It also looks kind of cute and fun together. That looks like a good time. This looks like something I want to be involved in. So that's the main message that I want to send if somebody just stumbles across. And then hopefully what that'll do is get them to dig a little bit further. Oh, this is fun and this is cute, but is it a cash grab? Oh, well, if you look on the Kickstarter and you just, maybe scroll a little bit more, oh no, it's not a cash grab because they already have a previous product out. And that previous product did X, Y, and Z. And I know I said this before, but I want the whole Kickstarter experience to be absolutely sprinkled with quotes, random quotes that I've got from people and, different videos from people giving it rave reviews. So if they stumble in and they go, this looks fun, this looks wholesome, cute, and it looks like it's legitimate, I want to be a part of that. If I can just have that succinct message to someone, that's what I want. As far as me being involved, unfortunately, I'm going to take the opposite approach of Assad. I don't want to be, you will not see me outside of, doing interviews because, we got to do interviews, but you will not
whatever
see
this is. Thanks.
Yeah. You won't see me on the Kickstarter at all. I want to actually remove myself from the focus at all. I want the focus to be on the game and completely solely on the game. And that's where that's going to be. Like I said, I just, before I even went on this little talk, I gave all that praise to Assad and he deserves it. And that's beautiful. And that's awesome. And that's working out well. And it's great.
I'm going to do none of that.
I don't. Yeah. Basically,
I'm kidding.
Basically, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to do that. When Zoo Tiles is mentioned, I just want people to focus on the game, on the fun they had with the game, on the experiences they had with the game, on the things that they want in the future for the game, that kind of stuff. So,
so
I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's the route I'm going to go.
You'll learn, right? At the end of the day, it seems that the trend has very little to do with the game and everything to do with the legitimacy of the product, the business. And I think that's the most important. So for everybody out there who's looking at current Kickstarters, look at the legitimacy. That's my message to you from this is look how legitimate it is. But here's the follow-up question for you, Josh, because you said you want it to be fun first. How do you show fun in a Kickstarter? Anybody can show fun. How do you show it?
I think we're going to have to do some really cool animations. It'll probably be with some of these characters you see behind me, like doing some cool little animated thing that we'll have to figure out, and then have tiles probably like banging in and maybe, a completed square, like some cool sound effects like yay, and then like, all the animals going together. Just a really fun experience. I don't really have
if it were starter set 1, I'd say show that freaking lasso, because I have lost multiple games due to the lasso, which literally steals a point away from me. That's not fair.
Hopefully we can bring some of, so another way to show fun is hopefully there are so many videos out there of people who are playing like playthroughs of Zoo Tiles for the first time. And they experience, like, I'm sure you're familiar with the tile Nay, right? And they've never, they don't know anything about the game. And I see this happen. I'm watching this in their video. I see them look at it. I'm watching them read it, and then they start laughing, So that's happened, a bunch of different times. So we could take snippets of those and, make sure that those are very, very, very aware, in people's faces about like lots of laughter, coupled with a lot of quotes. I get
so your approach. Your approach is legitimacy through customer testimonial. That's your thing. You want it in the moment, in the action, where Assad was, we've done this for years. We're in the moment. Look at people enjoying right now, which I think is cool too. I'm not complaining about either. They're both very unique. I don't think you see that one a lot, honestly. Because it's always, look at the pretty animation that we did where we show you our janky playmats and some digital cards that you can't play with and talk about the rules for 30 seconds. I'm really curious to see that approach of the customer testimonial. And I would love to see actual video in your video of people, because I know people have laughed at those tiles that you have, because I've laughed at those tiles. And I wasn't drunk at the time.
Yeah.
So I know they're funny.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely going to see those. Yeah. And that's going to be the focus, basically. Fun. Look at all these people having fun. Wow. Oh, look, this person really said that, like, there's this quote I just got the other day. Somebody was wishing me Merry Christmas. It was just someone, and he was like, your game came at just the right time, and it's had an impactful, it's impacted me and my family throughout some of these troubling times. And I was like, what? Like, what? Like, wow, that's like amazing. Like, I don't even know
I
what
get to say, I can say I have pig waddled my way out of a tiger frenzy, and nobody's going to know what that means. And anybody who's played it is going to be like, that's amazing.
Right.
I cannot get over how much fun Zoo Tiles is. But anyway, all right. So we are nearing the 2-hour mark. I'm also nearing the time that I Google Met with everybody. So I want to go ahead and wrap this up because I know we could pretty much talk the entire day. Thank you guys again so much for this. I learned an absolute ton from it. I hope that everybody else did as well. Some of my big takeaways especially are the legitimacy factor is really important. I learned I'm a big fan of the idea of, I was really negative about the Kickstarter markings, and I think you pointing out said that it's really no different from like a first edition, second edition. That actually kind of resonated a bit. That took away a lot of the stigma for me. So thank you for that perspective. I didn't know consolidators was a thing. I would love to explore that space in another video of the actual business mechanics of getting a game off of the ground, because I don't think enough people know. Because when I see a $500,000 or $300,000 Kickstarter, I just think you're set. I don't know where any of that goes. But also learning that in many cases, it's not even about this fails if the game doesn't go. It just lets you expand in very cool, creative ways. And that's the case with both of you. And I'm really excited to see all of that. That's what I pulled. But for everybody watching this far, I would love to hear your thoughts as well in the comments. But before we officially adjourn, I would love to get some final thoughts from both of you, what you're excited for in 2022. Please, I know I'm going to have this out before Josh, your Kickstarter even starts, but Assad, I think you've got like a week and a half still, a week of your Kickstarter, and I'd love to push that a little bit further. Feel free to plug whatever you'd want and say so long to our audience who has survived this far.
Josh,
Assad, if you want to take this one first.
Sure. So first and foremost, like, yes, come back to Kickstarter, but more importantly, support your local game stores, follow content creators, support them, because it is a lot of work putting out content so regularly, and it's so stressful. So support them and check out your favorite games before, if you have the opportunity, check them out before you back them. And if you get the opportunity, check out the Genesis Kickstarter. I'm sure you could just look it up on Kickstarter, Genesis Battle of the Champions, and you can also go to genesisbattleofthechampions.com to check out the game there.
And to add further to that, just had World Championship. Check out those videos as well. Those were super cool. Yeah. It's the real deal, guys. He's not messing around. Josh, fire away.
Just thanking everyone for watching this far, just like you said, Joey. And we're going to have a Kickstarter coming out for Starter Set 2 pretty soon. But in the meantime, if you want to check out Starter Set 1, it's right here. You can go bug your friendly local game store. That's where I would prefer you get it from. But if you don't have one nearby, it's online. You can get it lots of different places, Amazon, all that good stuff. So, I guess the final thoughts are, I just really appreciate this. And I am just really honored, actually, to be in the same little interview session as Assad, because I think, I don't know if this sounds bad, but I feel like the grandfather of like the way you do like Kickstarter or fund or do a successful game,
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, but maybe he doesn't like to be referred to as the grandfather of, maybe he just wants to be the father of or something like that. But anyway, definitely someone who's breaking new ground and kind of showing how it should be. Because I mean, I don't want to end this on a negative note. There's a lot of Kickstarters out there, I think, that aren't doing it the right way and maybe for the right reasons. So it's so nice to have somebody who you can look to and go, that's the right reasons. That's the right pathway. So, so it's good to have that kind of beacon of properness,
for sure,
I guess, if you will.
For you game creators out there, the takeaway that we want to send with you is if you want people to back the company, it kind of does a lot if they can back you as well. Assad, that is why so many people have backed you, is because they want to back you as well as the game. And I mean, I know, Josh, you were very active in the community as well. You're not both of you are not just people who exist on the sidelines thinking that some sort of promotion, some sort of metal card, serialized, hand-stamped something that Rudy's going to make fun of is going to get you all of the money that you need in order to do a Kickstarter. You got to show that you care about the community. Both of you have successfully done that in your own way. Be that Assad, you're very active in it. Josh, you're active in communities, but you both have done the grind. And I think I echo the grandfather thing of, I have not seen a game that has done the grind like you have, Assad, that had a game. I know that there's the grind of selling the game and getting people to back it, but not even Flesh and Blood can say they were throwing the game out there to a bunch of people everywhere and building up a fan base before they actually acquired the capital for it. You crushed that. I want your model. I'm a big fan of it. But Josh, also, to credit you, you built one amazing freaking game as well, man. So I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got to check that out. Are you gonna send me a copy?
Absolutely.
We'll hook each other up. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely.
You are really going to be frustrated at how fun it is. It's really fun. But also, the mechanics of Genesis are actually pretty spectacular as well. If you guys like the tactical card game aspects of it, super fast-paced if you're ready for it. I saw a game that had like a stack of 13 cards that all resolved in one attack, and that was the end of the game. Like, I don't know what just happened, but that was intense. I know that I was joking that somebody tried to screw me over by throwing a pits in front of me, so I couldn't actually move without taking damage. And sure enough, by the end of it, I was throwing all of his enemies in those pits. That was awesome. I was a big fan of that. So they both have their wonderful charms with it. As I flicker my camera one last time because the Logitechs are terrible and they don't focus for crap. But anyway, let's wrap this bad boy up. Thank you both so much for being a part of this. Again, please leave in the comments if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns. If I say if they have any questions for you as well, I can look and reach out and get those answered.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Mail me Assad at hauntedcastlegaming.com. I'll
throw that up on the screen. Josh, if you have anything, or just find my Instagram and bug me on Messenger. If there's
yeah. And anyone can contact me as well through, if you find Zoo Media, if you find Zoo Tiles on any social media and you just direct that and like send a message to that goes to me. So if anyone wants to talk to me about anything, feel free to use that route.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. So reach out with any thoughts. Feel free to ask, as Assad said, ask the difficult questions. Go for it. I'm excited for them myself. But gentlemen, one more time, cheers to you. Thank you so much for being a part of this. For everybody else, thank you for enduring this grand adventure, and I will see you next time.
Bye.